It's exactly 4 weeks to 2021, and 2020 has been an awesome year. It's just changed the norm about how everything is supposed to be. But anyway, nevertheless, we move regardless. My name is Ruby Engena. Welcome to this broadcast of HR Fridays November. A show that happens every last Friday of the month on our YouTube channel House of Ruby and on our Facebook page House of Ruby. So if you haven't yet subscribed, surely 2 years later, really, what is your excuse now? So go ahead and pause this broadcast and subscribe to the channel on YouTube House of Ruby, and go ahead and like as well on Facebook our page House of Ruby. And trust me, it's been exciting stuff, and we have more awesome stuff that is coming. And HR Fridays actually started from Bible verse, which I'm going to read now. So those of you who have not read your Bible in a while, go with me to Proverbs 27, Proverbs chapter 27, verse 23 to 27. So it says, "Be sure you know the condition of your flocks. Give careful attention to your herds. For riches do not endure forever, and a crown is not secure for all generations. When the hay is removed and a new growth appears, and the grass from the hills is gathered in, the lambs will provide you with clothing, and the goats with the price of a field. You'll have plenty of goat's milk to feed your family and to nourish your female servants." This is the word of the Lord. So I remember it was in March 2018, and I sat there. Now I have a background in HR. I worked in HR for the past 7 years, I think. And being in HR, you have a privilege to meet different people looking for jobs, people who are very experienced, people who have been in employment for a while, people who have left employment, the good, the bad, and the ugly. And I noticed all the way from my school life, people are taught how to get jobs. Everybody's like, pass the interview, this is what you're supposed to do. To do this is what you're supposed to do. But no one really tells you how to keep a job or how to be an employee. So really, this verse, I thank God for the revelation, was to know the condition of your herds as employees. What is the condition? As an employer, what is the condition of your employees? So that's why HR Fridays was started, really. And this other information about why is it on a Friday, why is it called HR Fridays, really it was HR information, but happening on a Friday, every last Friday of the month. So I started HR Fridays actually in April 2018. So for those of you who have just subscribed and are just watching, you need to go all the way back. Trust me, it's entertainment. Take you through the Christmas period. You will actually not entertainment, edutainment. So I started it in April 2018, and I started it, I remember at the time I was just talking about health. Physical health, mental health, spiritual health, and this happened every Friday on my Facebook account. And as I went on, I realized, okay, if I'm going to talk, basic HR stuff, having human resource conversations, why don't I get on people who have information that will help us, grow? And I remember I called a friend of mine, Raymond Mujuni, and I told him, hey, you know what, I'm thinking of something, let's talk about career, because Raymond is a person who, he studied law, and he stopped along the way and ventured into journalism. So I wanted to hear that from someone who has sort of changed careers. Yeah. So we shot the first episode in May 2018, and the topic was career. At the time, I was working with a very, very good gentleman called Michael. He was behind the cameras with JPEG photography. And we're waiting for Raymond, and Raymond calls us and he's like, you know what, I'm stuck, my car, has got a problem and whatnot. So Raymond actually came a few minutes late. We only get to realize that, he had taken his car for washing, and whoever washed his car stole the fuel. But he came and we had very, very, very good conversation. And I know, Raymond, you're probably watching this. I just want to say thank you so much for endorsing this show in the beginning, because also at the time I was a little bit confused. I remember that was May. So in June, we're like, okay, now what do we do? Let's get on an HR professional. And I remember I got Alan Joshua Mwesiga, and we talked about, how do you remain professional but human at the same time. After that, I remember we were talking about interviews, and I remember I called a very good friend of mine called Catherine Jeter. And Catherine, just gave us, what to do before, during, and after. What is so funny about the episode we did with Kathy is we were supposed to interview Kathy and someone else, and then, you know, myself. So we're all supposed to talk about before, during, and after interviews. That morning we wake up, and the person who was supposed to interview together with Kathy say, I'm not coming. So if you're out there and you want to get, you know, you want to go into a new job, you want to apply for a job, go and look for that episode we did with Kathy, before, during, and after interviews. So after talking about all this, you know, professional but human, interviews, career, we're like, you know what, let's talk about this thing everyone talks about called work-life balance. Like, what is it, you know? What exactly is work-life balance? And what better person to get on by than my dear friend Claude Lutaisire. So Claude told us about work-life balance. What does it actually mean to have work-life balance? And is it even a thing? Does it actually exist? You know, there's a thin line between work and life. And then how do you find the balance? Like, it was all confusing. So after you've had all this, you know, you've interviewed, you've got your work-life balance in check, you've done, you know, professional, but you're human and what? We figured, you know what, one thing people don't talk about is discipline. Discipline to maintain routines, discipline to, you know, to just do what you're supposed to do, the discipline to even be accountable. So one thing you guys need to know is every person I interviewed on HR Fridays at the time, up until September 2019, I knew, like, either I had a relationship with them, they were like a friend or a work friend or a business friend, whatever. But now the next lady I did know, Pamela Abonyo, at the time she was working with Nick. So someone just told me, oh, there's this lady, she's very good, you know, you should contact her. And you know, you're there scared, you're like, what am I going to do and what? But I thank God. First of all, I thank God for Pamela, but I thank God also that everybody I approached was really, really, really welcoming. So I contacted Pamela. I'm like, hi, I don't know, my name is Ruby, I'm this. I want to speak about, you know, this topic. And she's like, oh, yeah, fine, whatever. So we met, you know, we recorded, and, you know, she put in, you know, in there why we should be disciplined, why everybody needs to have a certain routine that they follow, why discipline is something that, you know, we get all the way from the start, like from childhood, and how it has disorganized and messed up professionals even up to today because they don't have discipline. So I remember we moved on to October, and, you know, the more we went on, you know, having these interviews, your mind keeps running. This is just a pro tip for anyone who's starting anything like a show or, you know, a business venture or whatever. It keeps getting better with time, but also it's not a thing that you do once and forget and say, I'll do it in Feb and that's it. The more you do it, if it's really passion driven and God given, you will want to do it over and over again. So in October, like, well, what do I talk about? And a friend of mine called Jacqueline Munene is very, very passionate when it comes to things like psychological capital, why it's the future, why we need to pay attention to, you know, these things, positive energy and whatever. So I was like, what better person? And remember at the time we were like, let's switch it up. So we're like, okay, Jack is passionate about going to the gym, so let's go to the gym, let's hit the gym and record from there. And I remember at the time I started working with an amazing, amazing man from Watanda Photography called Ambrose Watanda. And, you know, he really, really is amazing. He did, like, you know, amazing photography, you know, during the set. He'd make you feel comfortable and whatnot. So I remember that was the first episode we shot with Ambrose Watanda. And why I've mentioned his name now is because in a few two more episodes, I'm going to tell you something very funny that happened with Ambrose. So we continue. We shoot at the gym. We talk about psych up, what, very dope. And it was a very brilliant episode. You guys need to check it out. So after that, we're like, okay, we need to do something, you know, I can't record at a gym and then just come and go back, you know, we had to do something different. And I remember at the time, one of the things that was really affecting people was everybody was so busy. Oh, you call people, especially we by the employed people. What are you doing? I'm busy. What are you doing? I'm busy. What are you doing? I'm busy. But then you ask, busy doing what? Are you actually, you know, running business? Actually, I think even in the Bible, there's a verse that says they have become busybodies. You're just running around. I have a meeting, I have a to-do list, but are you actually making an impact what you're doing? And at the time, I contacted David Mutaka, amazing, amazing man. And, you know, David is really passionate about rugby, so there was nowhere to shoot it other than the rugby club. So we went, you know, he taught me a few tips about rugby. You know, I remember I was lifted sky high. Oh, it was an amazing time. And we talked about business and versus business. And I remember one of the key things David said was, you know, a to-do list is really addictive, you know, ticking off, I've done this, I have woken up, I have showered, I have brushed my teeth, I've done this. Ticking off is actually addictive, but what are you ticking off? Is it actually sense that you're doing? So you guys need to check out that episode. So that was 2019. So to end 2019 with the bang, I was like, who can I get it? And I got HR director of Coca-Cola Beverages Africa at the time, Mrs. Martha Munu Omer. And you know, Martha is very passionate about family, about, you know, people, and, you know, her children, her husband. And she always, you know, I've had the privilege and the honor to work under her leadership. And she will always talk about, you know, my kids, my husband, my this. And, you know, I realized, okay, family actually is a hidden weapon of success. So I got Martha in. I'm like, you know, Martha, come and close for me 2019. And, you know, she came in. But you know what is so funny about that day is the day we recorded Family Hidden Weapon of Success. Ambrose, who I told you about, his wife was in labor. Yeah, like legit labor. And like all the way, like 2 hours away from us. And then, you know, we had started recording labor at Tita, and Ambrose like, you know what, you need to rush, my wife's labor, it's my first baby and whatnot. And we're there, we're like, oh my God, trying to rush, this is a Christmas episode. It was tough. And also I've just remembered something. I had been robbed about maybe 3 weeks ago, 2 days or something. I don't really remember, but I had just been robbed. So I came to the episode very depressed. You know, Ambrose, you know, the wife was in labor. It was just, you know, everything about that day was a bit confusing. But when Martha came in, she like spoke to us, you know, excited us, and, you know, the episode came out well. We thank God for that. So that was 2019. Now, that was 2018 actually, not 2019. All I'll be telling you about is 2018. And what you guys need to realize is all this time, we had no YouTube channel. Like House of Ruby didn't exist at all. So every time the video would be ready, I'd go onto like my WhatsApp status updates and keep loading 30 seconds, but I've come from far surely. 30 seconds, and then upload the whole video on Facebook. So I remember there was so much pressure at the time. Oh, create a YouTube channel, create a Facebook page, you need to put these videos up and whatnot. But thank God I had backup. So I remember starting 2019 saying, you know what, we're putting up a YouTube channel. But how do you want to start 2019? You know, every time at the beginning of the year, there's always, you know, this person is like, oh, 2020 is my year, 2019 is my year, this was an amazing year. And then others are like, oh, you know what, I'm done with this year. Like most people I know are done with 2020. And I remember I contacted a friend of mine called Edward Kasalidwe, and I'm like, Edward, you know what? I know you had a setback once at work. How can we use that information? How do you come back after a setback? Particularly for people who had a bad year, quote unquote, in 2018. So Edward came on board and we talked about how to get back after a setback. You guys, you need to watch that episode that we did with Edward. I remember we shot it somewhere, Namugongo, somewhere. And he was just telling stories about how, you know, he had to go through a rough time at work, being retrenched, doing this, trying to start up his company. Right now he's doing an amazing job, you know, with coaching. He's a men's coach and, you know, coaching and mentoring. You need to check him out on Facebook, Eddie Katerega. He's Eddie Katerega Kasalidwe. He's doing quite an amazing job. So Edward came on and talked about how to make it, you know, a comeback after a setback. Now, one thing that I always do, by the particularly, if you guys, those of you who have been following the page, know that I always keep Feb, starting from 2019. February, the month of February is mine. So I remember when House of Ruby started, there was really no clue. Like, you know, you have a rough idea here, but one thing this has taught me is move. When you get the idea, move, do not wait. So those of you right now who have an idea to start a blog, to start a video, to start a business, to leave that company, move. You figure it out as you go, and God will be with you. So we talked about the comfort zone. I remember we shot that episode in a very nice place in Kisementi. So talking about the comfort zone, why you need to get out of the comfort zone, you know, does the comfort zone exist? Yes. And trust me, there is no one in this world who puts up their hand and says, I'm here, please take me out of the comfort zone. There is literally no one. So if you're struggling, get out of the comfort zone, listen and hear my experience. After talking about the comfort zone, I remember we did an episode with Andrew Mafabi. Andrew Mafabi at the time was working with Centenary Bank at the time. He's now working with Coca-Cola Beverages Africa. So I remember Andrew, we were talking about when is the right time to leave your employer. And Andrew Mafabi actually was one of those people, just like I had mentioned with Pamela Abonyo. I didn't know at the time, but, you know, very welcoming. I thank God, very, you know what, it's fine. I just, you know what, I need this episode. I had you recently left this employer to this employer. What can you help me share some information? And he came on and gave very brilliant pointers on when is the right time to leave your employer. And what is so funny about that episode, like I told you, I'm going to be giving you behind the scenes gossip, is that day I was sick, like I had like stomach upset and what. And it's just amazing at how when you look at the final picture, you look back and you're like, wow, like guys will never know that this is what happened that day. So I remember I was unwell and I had to go here and I had to go there and I had to go different places. I think that day I actually even arrived late. And I kept telling Andrew, you know what, I'm coming, I'm so sorry and what. So we recorded the episode and Andrew was just saying, you know what, people actually join. One of the things he said is people join employers for different reasons. When you leave campus, you join because you want money. Eventually you leave because, you know, maybe you've got a wife and a kid, so you want more money. But also you reach a point where you leave because, you know, career development. So if you're if you're struggling actually now, knowing, okay, I'm with this employer, they've been really good to me, maybe it's time to leave, I'm not getting fulfillment anymore, you're struggling with the decision on whether to leave the employer, go and check out that episode. I'm sure what Andrew says will bless you. What is so funny about HR Fridays is normally the topics. When you ask people, what do we talk about? What should we talk about? And what? And some of the topics are like, okay, do I really want to talk about that? And I remember in April, the topic we chose was how to deal with a horrible boss. You see, like I said in the beginning, the purpose of HR Fridays, the vision was teach people how to be employees and how to be good employees. So the target market was actually people who are employed, not necessarily in an organization. It could be employed at home. It could be employed in your personal business. So it was speaking really to employers and employees, business owners and people who are working for business owners. And one of the things that really came out strong was, you know, how do I deal with a horrible boss? Because at the end of the day, the boss is the authority that God has given you and you're supposed to respect them. So how do you deal with them? I remember having a conversation with a very good friend of mine called Miriam Chibaya, Mrs. And I was like, you know what, Miriam, I think you need to help me with this episode. You're quite, you know, calm. You're the best person who can explain. And also, so Miriam came on board, you know, just gave practical ways on how to deal with a horrible boss. And the funny thing, or the sad thing, or the truth is, a boss is a boss. You know, your leader is your leader. You have to respect them whether they're good or whether they're bad. So right now, if you're there and you have a horrible boss, and you have to deal with one, or if you're there and you are a horrible boss, because sometimes you may be thinking you're the bomb, you're not. You might be the one who's horrible. Go and check out the episode about how to deal with a horrible boss. Now May, you know, month of May is my birthday month, so normally for that episode I'm like super excited, super happy. I remember at the time I contacted Sandra Kaganzi, and it was a very sad time for her. She just lost a friend of hers. She'd been going through like different things here and there, and she still, you know, she has the job she's doing at the time. She was a customer service manager. So of course when you're the customer service manager, you're the one who's smiling at customers all the time. You're the one who's happy all the time. But she was going through a very tough time in her life, and she was really, really open to sharing, you know, how to make it in life, how to make it at work and remain productive when your life is a mess. So normally, most times we put ourselves under so much pressure, and also our jobs. For instance, if you're a receptionist, ideally the person who's welcoming people, smiling and what. But then how do you remain productive? Not even only a receptionist, anything. Even a radio presenter, for example, because when you're a radio presenter, us who are on the other side are listening to what you're saying. So she just broke down, what do you do? How do you stay productive? Without necessarily pretending, but also, you know, allowing yourself to go through the emotions. So she talked about how to make it in life, how to make it at work when your life is a mess. So check it out. Millennials, the new force. Yo, I really enjoyed this episode. I actually did a 2-part series for this one. So for this one, I had a conversation with non-millennials, Mr. and Mrs. Severia. Dr. Jeff and Lydia, Doctor. Amazing couple. Like, if you guys, marriage goals, by the way, the Severias, because first of all, they're raising millennials. And I remember one of the jokes, the things that Mr. Severia was saying is he doesn't understand, like, his son. He's like, my son, he has earphones in, his jeans are folded like this, he's on the phone, he's on one. And it was just it was amazing to hear, because there's all this noise about the millennials. But it was good to hear it from non-millennials. And also, what I was really driving at in that conversation was trying to understand, okay, why are people so mad at millennials? Yet you're the ones who raised us. So where was the gap, right? So they really broke it down for us. By the way, you need to check it out. So after that, I did a part 2 series with a millennial, Juliana Kayaga, Mrs. Seremba, Mrs. James. First of all, you need to get her book, Becoming Mrs. James, an amazing story about love and the journey to becoming a wife. So Julie broke it down for us, what do millennials actually want? How can organizations actually harness millennials? Yes, you're saying you're so energetic, they move on quickly, they're so busy. So as a business owner, how do you tap into that? But I'm not going into all that and spoil it for you. Guys need to check it out. After that, we talked about mental health with Jennifer Malay, an amazing mental health specialist. Talked about why organizations need to pay attention to mental health, why employees need to pay attention to mental health, why you in person need to pay attention to your mental health, and what mental health is really basically. I like that we're in that information age, because in the past, if you grew up in my days, be like, mental health, what is that? I remember at the time they used to say things like depression and diseases for the bazungu, but like she broke it down what it actually is, why we need to pay attention to it, and it was very, very amazing. September actually was one of my favorites. I sat with Brenda Yiki, Mrs. Brenda is a managing partner at Party Paradise in Ntinda. You guys need to check out Party Paradise. They have all these amazing party things. Over taken, she said yes, turns 50, turns 16, sweet 16. Just know if you want to make your party things look nice, Brenda is the person to look up for. Party Paradise on Ntinda Complex. So go and check out that episode on emotional intelligence. Guys, let me tell you something. I learned from that episode that however smart you are, if you don't have emotional intelligence, you're wasting your time. You're really, really wasting your time. So you need to check out Brenda's conversation about emotional intelligence. Whew, you know what? I don't want to spoil the rest for you. So let me take a break right here. But next month, December, we'll continue with the stories of HR Fridays. Remember, this is HR Fridays. You are the CEO of you. See you next month for part 2.